You want to build the perfect team, but you have outdated tools, a tiny budget, and 500 resumes staring you in the face. Sound impossible, right? This is the world of federal hiring. HR teams are juggling more work than ever, and they're still trying to make it work. How? The entire federal hiring system is facing a massive challenge. They're stuck in the middle of a growing problem. Their workload keeps increasing, but their resources, not so much. It's like trying to build a bridge with only half the materials. The federal workforce has only grown by 2.2% since 2000, but the demands on HR have dramatically increased. If you look at the federal job applications, it takes an average of 100 days in order to get somebody fully onboarded, to get them hired. Now, in the private sector, it's only 23 days. That means the federal government takes at least 4 times longer than the private sector. Of course, the government would love to hire quicker, but check this out. This is the targeted timeline from the Department of State. It says here 80 days. Still a lot longer than the private sector, but a whole heck of a lot better than the 100-day target. But even with 80 days, that condensed timeline, it still doesn't happen a lot of the times because you can't account for when HR uses their sick leave or when you decide you're going to take your time to get your photo taken and your fingerprints done or submit your SF-86. That is on the applicant. So there are a lot of variables that come into play that can extend the timeline, and oftentimes it does. It's not unusual to wait 4, 5, 6 months. In some cases, if you want to work for like a 3-letter agency, FBI, CIA, that can go 12 months. That can go beyond 12 months. So what's the big deal? Why not just hire more HR staff? Well, all the agencies right now, they're struggling with their budget. And the technology that they have is not the latest and greatest. It's probably at least 5, 10, 15, 20 years plus old. Look at the SSA. They got systems over there probably 40, 50 years old in a lot of their offices. You think by reading these headlines of agencies receiving hundreds of millions of dollars that money is going to improve technology, that money is going to hiring? Oftentimes, it's not. The chief HR office at Commerce says that the lack of resources has a ripple effect. HR teams are stuck with outdated processes, outdated systems. And a lot of times they can't even use something as simple as AI. AI is free right now. But when an agency tries to implement it within one of its processes, it gets a lot of pushback from the union. She also goes on to say that budget constraints leave us without the data maturity we need to leverage advanced technologies. Data maturity means having clean, usable data to drive decision making. So what this means is a lot of HR offices, they have a ton of data, but they don't have the process or the system to make any sense out of that data. It's like having a library, but there's no system in how you're going to put the books on the shelves. You just put them any old kind of way. Because of this, Commerce had to get a little bit creative when it comes to the hiring process. And what they've been doing more often, they're doing in-person hiring events. They get the most return on investment when they actually travel to these events. A lot of them are held in DC. So if you look at the Northern Virginia, the Maryland area, there's always hiring events happening in this area. So when they send representatives out there, they get a good return on their investment. But with the virtual events, they haven't been seeing the same thing. And one of the big differences is when you're getting ready to go to an in-person hiring event, what do? You make sure you have some nice clothes, you brush your teeth, you comb your hair, you print out your resume, you're going with your best foot forward because you're committed. If you weren't committed, you wouldn't get in the car, you wouldn't get on the train, you wouldn't spend the money to actually go there. So that shows you're committed. On a virtual event, you could be laying in your bed. Maybe you didn't even brush your teeth yet. I don't know you. But the thing is, it's more low effort. And because it's low effort, you might have a high turnout, but you're just not getting the applicants that you're looking for. Another interesting thing that they're doing is they're doing something called high touch communication. So instead of just ghosting applicants, they're emailing them more, they're messaging more. This is something that all federal agencies should do, not just the Department of Commerce, every single agency out there. There's some that have a presence on LinkedIn. I'm looking at you, Space Force. I'm looking at you, Department of Homeland Security. They're active. They have recruiters out there. They'll reach out to you. They'll keep you informed. But there's other agencies, you're in the hiring process and it's just crickets. You hear nothing. 2-3 weeks go by, a month go by. You're like, am I even still doing this? Why have they not reached out to me? And it makes a huge difference to applicants. I've talked to people that had 3 job offers, and the one that's actually communicating with them and keeping them updated, that's the one they end up picking, not necessarily the one that pays more, because they had a bad vibe. They get a bad vibe, they don't want to work for that agency anymore. Other federal agencies, to include Department of Commerce, they are looking for passive job seekers. So what this means for you is on usajobs.gov, you need to make sure one of your resumes is searchable because they are searching it. They are extending interview invites to people because they click that little box on usajobs.gov. Make sure you have that box checked. Federal agencies can talk a lot about improving their communications and maybe expanding their hiring events. But we both know what it comes down to a lot of times is incentive. And the government has levers to pull. They can include a recruitment incentive. They can include a retention incentive. They can include relocation reimbursement. And for federal employees, they can include relocation incentives. This means more dollars in your pocket. And oftentimes, that's what it takes to move the needle. If you want to get higher level talent quicker, to spark the interest, you have to show the money. Some agencies, they've realized this. The TSA, for example, they've realized it because there was a job announcement not too long ago that was in Alaska, all the way to the north. I can only imagine how cold it gets up there. But there's an airport up there. There was a recruitment incentive, I believe, of over $20,000. Despite that amount, they didn't get that many applicants. I don't even know if they filled that position yet. But that's what it takes sometimes to get someone to move to an undesirable location or to get someone to get involved in a crucial project. But I think during the job search, you shouldn't focus so much on how many people applied to the position. On usajobs.gov, for certain agencies, when you apply, it tells you 800 people applied, 2,000 people applied, whatever the number is. What you should know is most of those people, they're applying without intention. They're just randomly throwing their resume at it. They're not making any modifications. Their resume isn't strongly written to fit the specialized experience within the job announcement. So they're really wasting their time by just submitting their resume. If you spend the extra minutes, in some cases over an hour, and making sure it's a really good fit for the position that you know that you're eligible and qualified for, not just qualified, you're best qualified for. If you take that time, that will be time well invested, and you're going to see different results. Now, if you're new to applying to federal government jobs, you could have a lot of questions on your mind about the federal hiring process, about the website, usajobs.gov, maybe some salary questions. I did a live stream recently. I answered over a dozen of those questions. A lot of them could be on your mind. If you're interested in that, I want you to check this video out next. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please click like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.